What's up, y'all? Welcome to the Eben Flow podcast. I'm Evan Britton. It's great to be here once again. Have a great episode for you guys today. It's with Vanessa Lambert. She does a lot of amazing things. One of the main things she does, she's the founder of an incredible organization, community, event called Be the Wellness, otherwise known as Be Fest. I'll be teaching at the next one in April, at the end of April. The exact dates are there in the show notes, as well as a link to check that out. But this was an incredible conversation. Vanessa is super tapped in. She is an absolute Yogini, Kundalini Yoga teacher. She reads the Akashic Records, all the good stuff. We had a really fantastic conversation in this episode. Really excited to share it with you. So first and foremost, check out in the show notes, there's a link if you're interested, if it calls. Mexico, April 26th to 30th is B-Fest. I will be teaching the Eben Flow, breathwork, yoga, movement. Really excited about that. It's in Palmaya, Mexico, somewhere in that Tulum vicinity. It'll be amazing. 5 days on the beach. White sand, gorgeous ocean, beautiful people, amazing food, great events, activations, breath work, yoga, meditation, music, all the good stuff. So be sure to check that out. This episode also is sponsored by our good friends at NewFit. Once again, NewFit is a profound technology that helps expedite recovery times, heal damaged muscles, heal injuries, build strength, optimized function of the total body system. Really fantastic technology. Check that out in the show notes as well. Link in there. Use code Eben Flow. As always, you can get more information at that link. And then finally, Quicksilver Scientific. Love Quicksilver. Dr. Chris Shade is one of my absolute favorite dudes on the planet. He is, I don't even really know what to call the guy. He's an alchemist. He's a wizard. He's really tapped into these ancient adaptogenic herbs and roots like ginseng, ashwagandha, astragalus, stuff that you may not have even heard of before that I can't think of off the top of my head, but it's the best of the best. Liposomal delivery, nanotechnology. It's highly bioavailable. Great stuff. Once again, use code Eben Flow for that. Link in the show notes. Without further ado, Vanessa Lambert.
You have unlocked the eternal link to internal source, the key of imagination, your admission, access to the enlightened dimension. A gateway at the junction of darkness and light. The place at which the chaos of our conditioned frame of mind give way to a life in constant flux, only to be mastered through vigilant discipline. Peaceful times may come, testing times may go. This is the Eben Flow.
Vanessa.
Eben.
So good to see you. So good to connect with you. It's great to have you here.
Likewise. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for making the trip. I know you've come a long way for this.
In so many ways.
Yeah, totally. I hear you. First thing I want to say, I'm super stoked for Be the Wellness, the event coming up in April. One of my favorite things in the world to do is teach and connect with people. And I know, because I'm good buddies with Cal and Peyton, and I know they went to your last event in Utah.
Yeah, in Zion.
Which looked spectacular. And then our good friend, Jared Picard.
My new best friend.
Your new best friend, as we were just talking about.
Yeah.
He started working with you guys and helping to whatever back end stuff with B Fest.
Yeah, I'm calling him our co-producer.
Oh wow,
Feels
it's a big
good,
deal.
right?
Oh yeah, it feels
Yeah.
good, and
Yeah.
that definitely suits him. I
It
mean,
does.
he's really a master of pulling things together. For me, he's been a master pitch man. Before we even really started getting involved professionally, we became great friends. We were immediate soul brothers. But I heard him describing me to someone, and I was like, almost in tears. I was like, dude, that's the best introduction I've ever heard, I've ever received about myself. Yeah, like I love you so much. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah. I heard that introduction. He gave it to me.
Yeah.
So, and I'll just, briefly summarize it by saying that he was like, he's a star. And
Yeah.
I was like, okay, got it.
Oh my God, I love that. I love him.
Yeah.
So when he said that he was working with you guys and that there was an opportunity for me to come and join, I was so excited about that. So I would love to just kick it off. I know there's a lot of really amazing things you do that I want to talk about. But I think that especially since coming out of a couple weekends ago, I put on my event, Eben Flow, and I would love to talk to you about how did Be the Wellness start? Where did that come from? Like, what was the birthing of that like? And because I think it's probably in line with a lot of the things I'm thinking and seeing as far as what the world and people are in need of right now.
Yeah, I think there's probably a lot of synchronicity between what we're up to. But, Be the Wellness started with the name. And it's really interesting because I was thinking about the Gandhi quote, be the change you wish to see in the world.
Yeah, love that one.
And I was just thinking, we were wellness coaches. We'd worked with Rob Wolf and Mark Sisson, and we'd been in this paleo kind of ancestral world for a really long time.
Okay.
And I was just thinking that like the term be the wellness you wish to see in the world came into my brain. And I just thought it's so beautiful because if you just embody the wellness, like the energy, the health, the beauty, the love, the grace, like that's one of the biggest contributions you can make to one another and to humanity. And so I just thought, well, I want to start a company called Be the Wellness.
Love
and
that.
when I was looking at the, like buying the website, I thought, well, instead of just BE, what if we make it BEE, like a honeybee?
Uh-huh.
And, I was thinking about how bees, from a technical standpoint, shouldn't be able to fly, right? Like aerodynamically, they're super heavy and they're kind of wonky, yet they just lift off and fly.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, that fits us.
Uh-huh. I love
We're probably doing things that we're like maybe not super equipped to handle, but we're just going to go ahead and do it anyway.
that. I love that.
Yeah. So that was Be the Wellness. Yeah.
That's amazing. I love that. And I was thinking about that just a moment ago, about how you chose to do bee, like a honeybee. And I love bees. Like they're so
amazing.
You as a Kundalini Yoga practitioner, facilitator, teacher, frequently I do in sessions with people, we'll do the bee breath. Why am I forgetting the Sanskrit name? But essentially it's take a deep breath in and then you hum it out. And it's just such a centering.
It's beautiful.
It's anti-anxiety. It's the ultimate antidepressant. And we call it the bee breath because, bees are the ultimate symbol of connection and family and, taking the nectar from flowers and dispersing the pollen so that growth and life can proliferate. And it's also, it's really also the symbol of abundance and prosperity.
Absolutely.
And we do that together. We can create that vibration in our lives, in our home, with our family. We do it together.
I love it. Yeah.
And so I really love that that's, the choice you made with creating this thing.
Yeah. Well, and just think about the sound current of a bee also. And I'm sure you as a yogi and folks out there that are listening, it's like vibration is everything. Like that's the medicine of the future, right? I mean, it's the medicine of now, but eventually we'll understand just how impactful it is. And I just think when you hear B, there's like everything in your life stops when you hear a B, right? You immediately are like,
Yeah.
and I think about that. It's like, wow, what a powerful sound current that entity, that small little entity has, where it can basically snap anything into attention. And so it's a powerful, it's a powerful little creature.
Really powerful.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that so much.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of cool stuff going on at B-Fest.
There is, yes.
So tell me about that and why you chose to do it this way. I mean, you could have just made it like a conference, a learning experience, but you've really made it this immersive, action-oriented, bringing in a lot of incredible practices, mindfulness, movement, all the good stuff. So why did you decide to do that?
Yeah, I think it's really important just to kind of understand like the energy and the preface of this particular event. And that is that this event is designed for you to remember how beautiful your life already is. And I think that so many of us, especially in this world, we're all here for the transformation. Don't get me wrong. We're all about like getting into the trenches and doing the hard work and going into those places. But I also think it's equally important to set a container where it's like, remember that you are whole, remember that you are beautiful and that you are loved, and that this moment right now is worth being enjoy. And that it's okay to just be happy. It's okay to have fun. It's okay to celebrate your life. And not everything has to be such a slog, And that was really important to me with B-Fest, that it was an opportunity for us to come together and hold that container for people to be like, we're here, guys. Like, we did it. Whatever you've done before, whatever's happened before, you got to this moment now. And let's just take a moment to celebrate that and to really, really honor like the journey.
Yeah.
And so that's the one thing I really, and you might have an incredibly transformative experience because of that. But it's not like we're like, hey, get in the trenches and like start excavating the dark stuff. It's like, hey, we've done a lot of that, haven't we? And if you're at B-Fest, I can almost promise you've done a lot of that work.
Yeah.
So for me, it's just like, let's just get together and let's like turn up the frequency of all that is great.
I love that. That's super refreshing. And literally this week, I think it was Tuesday or Wednesday morning, I get up super early. I do my meditation. I do my breath work. And lately I've been wanting to get more disciplined about my writing. And I sat down. It was about 6:30 in the morning. It's dark. Everybody's still asleep. I'm sitting there at my computer. I'm writing. And all of a sudden it was this wave of recognition where I thought to myself, man, I've spent a lot of time out here.
Yeah.
Envisioning, fantasizing, looking down the road. My mind really loves to look down the road at where we're going.
Yeah.
What am I creating? What am I producing? During my football career, my mind was always on the peak of that mountaintop.
Yeah.
And now, coming out of that and having gone through many awakenings, many shedding of skins, many transformations, many rebirths, seemingly almost daily at this stage.
Right.
Yeah.
You're on a 24-hour clock at this point.
Yeah. And I realized, and a practice of mine is every morning and night, part of my practice is I envision my life, and I feel in my body just being completely fulfilled and taken care of. Safe,
love it,
secure, everything. Totally loved. I just hold that vibration in my body.
Beautiful.
And the beauty of that, and the interesting realization I had was I spent a lot of time out here, and when things aren't going quite perfectly, as far as like my mind's idea of what it's supposed to look like on a day-to-day, moment-by-moment basis. There can be this lull or this sadness or this depression or this angst or frustration about why isn't it like that? You know? Meanwhile, I'm highly aware of how far I've come, how perfectly in alignment my life is right now, how I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be, doing exactly what I'm destined to be doing, totally fulfilled in my life in just about every way. And of course, you know, there's constantly things that, you know, realizations or the holding on of that's going to be the answer. Yeah. And then it's like, oh, but it has to be more than that, obviously, because it can never be this external thing. But I had this, it was a crystal clear recognition of I spend so much time out here. Eb, let's just come back here. Let's just be right here in the now. Yeah. In this moment. And let's really acknowledge how awesome this life is.
Yeah. I mean, you're basically describing B-Fest as an event, you know?
Love that.
And it's just, there's not enough people talking about this or encouraging this. And I think this is maybe one of the pitfalls of the wellness world is that it's like a constant slog. We've got to constantly, and I remember being at an event and I actually, it hit my brain when I heard these words. The person was working through something and, you know, they'd had this breakthrough and it was like, everybody was like, that's so powerful. Great. As soon as the person was done, the facilitator said, but don't worry, there's still more. And I was just like, you know, like, okay, you had 1 second of feeling like, yes, I'm here, but no, there's more. And I was like, you know, at what point do we get to heal? What point do we get to be whole? Like, at what point do we
now?
Yeah, exactly.
Let's do it.
That's all it is right now. Yes. Amen.
No, I love that so much. And you're right. It's fucking important, dude.
It really
I
is.
love the first thing you said. You're like, don't get me wrong. Yes, we're here for the transformation. And let's recognize how far we've come. Yeah. How great we're doing. How fucking magical, majestic, beautiful our life is right here, right now. You know?
I mean, we could stop the podcast right there,
that's
right?
It. We're done. We're out
we
of
did
here.
It.
Perfect.
But it's just true. I mean, I really feel like, and when you realize that sometimes the biggest transformation is in the acceptance of how wonderful the moment is.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Like when you're feeling totally in the rigmarole and you've hit the wall for the 1,000th time and you've plateaued and your life feels really stale and unmoving and you feel stuck and you're like, you're in the slog.
Yeah.
When you just come back to the recognition of being right here, right now, you're exactly right. That's when the next transformation happens.
And we've all had enough experience at this point to look back and go, oh, in retrospect, it was all perfect. And so it's like when you have enough years, enough miles on this thing, you understand like it's actually going to be okay. And it's actually going to be better than okay. It's going to work out in ways I couldn't have foreseen. And I think that's like, you know, when I was growing up, I had a really strange relationship with like the concept of God. I didn't really like know what that was. And I was into maybe energy. Just, it really made me feel like, oh, this is why it's so important to have something bigger than yourself to know and love, whether you call that God or not, but to feel held in the safety that it's all okay and that it's all going to work out. And I think that that's really, with enough experience and time, you can drop into that and feel really grateful that there is something bigger than you holding you on your path.
Yeah. That's always been really important for me. And from the time I was a little kid, I don't know exactly. Like you, I wasn't necessarily identifying it as God or even the universe at that time. But I remember just as far back as I was conscious that there was something bigger than me guiding my life.
Yeah.
And that's been a fucking saving grace for me through a lot of dark times, you know, a lot of pain and just knowing, okay, you know, this is really fucking heavy and hard or challenging. And I know that there's a greater purpose for all of this than this thing right here.
Yeah, and I mean, so many people talk about those painful things being the most beautiful because they do take you to that space where
Wait a
something's
minute.
holding you.
There it goes. I don't know why this.
Am I not speaking loud enough? Or
No,
is it...
it's good. It's good.
Okay.
That's good.
Okay. Noah, what's happening? Are we good? Okay.
Okay.
There's lines happening.
And it's lighting up. You're good.
Okay. Yeah, I just think that, you know, those dark moments are the beautiful thing because they take us to that place where you have to surrender, like Noah's hat over there, right? The University of Surrender.
That's right. That's some of our merch.
I love
actually.
it. I really love it.
Yeah.
I
Have
was-
to bring some hats for B-Fest.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
I was telling Noah, I'm a musician and my last album was called Surrender. So
Oh, it's the best.
it's my word. Yeah.
Yeah. It's one of my favorite words for sure.
Yeah.
Something else you were saying there. God, surrender. Being in the moment. The dang chord fiasco.
It's good though. It's actually asking you to just drop in and like
That's right.
slow down a bit, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So you've been in the wellness world for a long time.
Yep.
What was your journey into that like? I mean, you know, I feel like everybody who's really taken or made their well-being their life, you know, we've all had our share of physical traumas, difficulties, you know. So I'm curious, what steered you into that world?
You know, I always say that it kind of chose me in a way. And I actually got my first coaching job when I was 9 years old.
Dang.
Yeah. So I was a gymnast and I was just kind of I just took it naturally to the sport. And I was 9 years old and my coaches asked if I'd start coaching the 4 and 5 year olds. And so I quite literally started coaching at 9 years old. And I feel like I haven't stopped coaching since. I haven't stopped teaching since. And so I really think it just chose me and it's just dharma. It's just
who you
destiny. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, you know, you can go through the timeline. We ended up living in Northern California in the same town as Rob Wolf. I don't know if you are familiar with his work, but
Yeah, I love Rob.
yeah. And he had just opened the second, maybe third CrossFit. So we started training with him and his wife, Nikki. We competed on his CrossFit team and, you know, we kind of came up through that school, the CrossFit school. And then when we moved here to LA, he introduced me to Mark Sisson. I started working with Mark Sisson and actually started Mark's first coaching program out of his office in Malibu when he was still there. Yeah.
Vanessa.
Yeah.
Those are a couple OGs. Those aren't just like regular people.
Super OG. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we quite honestly like grew up in this environment. My husband was a chief for CAL FIRE for
Wow.
a long time.
Amazing.
So he was running the state wellness program basically for CAL FIRE.
That's amazing.
Yeah. And so we just kind of kept cultivating this world and experience. And we started running events with Mark in Malibu. Gosh, 11 or so years ago, I think, maybe 12 years ago, we had our first event with him. And after the event, we did 3 of them together. But after the events, he was like, you know, you guys, like, this is your jam. Like, you guys, this is what you should be doing. And he essentially just said, like, start your own company. I'm going to send people to you. And that really kind of kicked us out of the nest. We started Be the Wellness and he did as he promised and just started sending people to us. And we just like, boom, had a business.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So Be the Wellness, you've done 3 of these events.
So we've done 3 Bee Fests, one in 2018 in Northern California in the Redwoods. And then we had to take a few years off for various reasons.
Yeah.
And then we did our second one in Zion last year.
Okay.
And then this year in Mexico in Playa Riviera. Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And were there events you did before that?
Yeah, so we've done events all around the world for, over a decade now. We've taken people on African safaris and trips to Machu Picchu and New Zealand. We're taking a group to Egypt in November. So
amazing.
We've been taking people all over the world. And, honestly, I don't even think I realized this at the time. But as I look back, one of the reasons I think we were taking people all over the world is quite literally to get the codes of the land, like to quite literally get the frequency of those spaces. And yes, we're doing awesome activities and, guided adventures and all this good stuff. But a lot of it, I think, was taking people to the ley lines of those spaces and helping people get the energy that they're meant to get in this lifetime. Yeah.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, so we've been at it for a minute, and it's been such a labor of love, just watching people transform. And this as a teacher and a coach, people, you can talk to them on Zoom or you can work with them, and then you can take them out and have one transformative experience out in the wild. And it's like 10 years of training. It's 10 years of coaching.
Absolutely.
And that, I think, is what we got addicted to, is like we had clients that we were working with and we would see progress and we would see, some great things happening. We'd go have one transformative experience and that person came home as a different person.
Yeah.
And it was just like, it's just different now.
Yeah.
They jump timelines. They're just in a totally different reality.
Yeah.
And so that just became like our mission, is like, how do we help people jump these timelines and just grab a different reality stream and live into that? And it's just beautiful.
I love that. It's a really profound thing that I've seen as well. I've done a handful of events now. This couple weekends ago was basically the third one that I've put on.
Congrats.
Yeah, thank you.
It's a labor of love.
Absolutely. And what you just said is what makes the whole thing worth it for me.
Yep.
Seeing the individuals that come in day one and then seeing those individuals who leave at the end.
Yes.
Beaming with love, totally opened up, tears, hugs, just like what you said. That's the perfect way to describe it. People just jump timelines. They just went through 10 years of work in 48 hours.
Yep. And you do it with your mom, right? You do
the first one we did with my mom.
I saw those videos and that really touched me.
Yeah.
I work with my mom a lot too. And
oh my God, I love
that.
It's
so special.
It is. It was really special.
I love that so much.
Yeah. My mom is an absolute wizard.
She looks like a really special lady.
She is.
Yeah.
She is very special. I mean, honestly, everything I am now is the direct result of who my parents are. Just what they infused me with. My mother's a master intuitive healer, body worker, yogini. She teaches yin, and she's just like, I mean,
some people are who they are in spite of their parents. So it's really a treasure when you get to say you are who you are because of your parents.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I love that. And it's true. During my football career, my back would go out or I'd have some injury. My mom would get me on the floor, and in 5 minutes, I'd be out of pain.
Wow. That's amazing.
And she's always been like that. And then she fortified that with deep education, cadaver studies for a decade. She went and did her Master of Yoga Science at Loyola Marymount. And,
wow.
Went to India and done the thing at the yoga healing centers there. And
what's your mom's sign? Her astrological sign?
She's a Taurus.
A Taurus, okay.
Yeah, she's super earth, ground, like.
I was going to guess Virgo because it's another earth sign. I'm Virgo, and I was like, if she feels that earthy.
Yeah. Super earthy. And just, we have some funny family things that I won't share here, but just like people tend to come into the family and they just kind of get blown apart. a little bit, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, we're a family of witches and medicine people. So,
yeah.
you know, when people come into the fold, it's like you have to look at yourself because we just like hold up this mirror and it either works or it doesn't, you know?
You're either here for it or not.
Yeah. And she's really the queen, the matriarch of that. So, the first one we did with Mom, and then she's been in Italy living out her lifetime dharma of living abroad and being in Italy, and she was spent all of Christmas and basically half of January in South Africa. And
nice. Good for her. She deserves it.
Oh yeah, she does big time.
I can feel that.
But she's just flying back today, so that's fun. That's exciting.
I feel like your mom needs to come to B-Fest. Like she would.
I was just thinking that. I think
like,
that
she would just.
We'll figure out. We'll have to get her to one for sure.
Definitely.
Maybe even this one. I don't know.
She would meet my mom, which would be really
at
sweet.
this one.
My mom will be there. Yeah.
All right. Well, maybe we can figure that out.
I think it would be cool. I think it's important too that we have our parents, and it's one of the things I love about B-Fest is it's not for like there's no specific age. I mean, we've had 16-year-olds. One of our clients brought his 16-year-old son, and then all the way up to, you know, my mom's 67 or whatever. And I'm sure we've actually had people in their 70s. And it's one of the things I loved about Burning Man. It's like there's no age, there's no gender, no type. Like if you are open-hearted and you want to have a beautiful experience, then this is your event. And that's the only prerequisite. And I think that is really important to encourage and nurture all the ages, all the types of people to just come and enjoy that.
Yeah. No, I love that. Because it's about the vibration.
It's about the vibration. And honestly, it's like a song. If you don't have the bass and you don't have the harmony, you don't like it's not complete. So if you just have one type, it's like, all right, that's cool, but where's the rest of the song?
That's an important analogy in this day and age.
It really is.
People really want it to be the same in a lot of places in the mainstream.
Well, especially here in LA, right?
Yeah.
That's, I think, one of the places I've seen it the most is that homogenization of just like, there's a type and actually I'd even say there's like a few categories, but it's like you've got to get into one of the categories. And I think here there's a lot of pressure to do that, to kind of conform into those categories. So you have to actually almost be a little bit more aware of that and stay fresh with yourself, or else it's easy to, I think, get kind of pulled.
It's true. It is very true. I would say living here, and I'm not sure how much time I've got left in LA, to be honest.
It's interesting how that happens.
Yeah. And coming out of the NFL, there was no place I'd rather be than LA. And that was 2015.
I thought I'd be here forever. If you told me I was going to leave Venice Beach, I'd be like, you're crazy.
Yeah.
Where would I go?
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it?
It's really interesting. Yeah.
I feel like to some extent, LA is definitely still a spiritual vortex.
For sure.
You know, it's a big nexus of traditions, practices, masters, people, seekers, music, art. You know, it's a really powerful energy center. It's also, I don't know, it's just become, you know, I don't know. Maybe that's just me. Maybe it hasn't changed at all.
I think this is the truth, is that you just sometimes are on a different timeline with it. And I think that's what happens is you're on an LA timeline or you're not, you know, and sometimes you're noticing that shift come in. And when that happened for us, it was really crazy because it was right before COVID. And we had just come back from Montana. Actually, we had run an event in Montana and we were driving back and
Love Montana too.
I know. We thought we were going to move there actually, but somehow Wyoming pulled us in.
I love that.
But we were on our way back, and the closer we got to LA, I could feel my central nervous system just like kind of ratcheting up. And I was like, oh no.
It's real.
It's so real.
Yeah.
The last time I was here, I actually made a goal to kind of be in like a bigger commitment to witnessing my thought forms while I was here. And so I was kind of zoomed out, like making a real effort to witness the types of thought forms that were coming through. And I was like, wow, it is a shit show up here. Like, there's so much erratic energy, so much kind of kinetic energy, and you can see your thought forms sort of react to it.
Yeah.
And I remember just thinking like, oh, wow, this is why it's actually so important to have a really deep yoga practice or have a really deep spiritual practice here, because otherwise you won't be able to buffer the energy.
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
Is living here, I have to make
100%.
My daily rituals, they have to happen.
It has to.
Meditating, breath work, yoga. If I don't, I'm a fucking mess.
Yeah. I mean, the central nervous system just can't handle the
Literally.
frequency. It gets overrun. Yeah.
And the cleaner and clearer you get, the more sensitive you are to it.
I know.
So you have to, you have to keep deepening your practice. It's so true.
It's so true. It's like, I was just thinking this morning. I was like, man, I can't get away with anything anymore.
Yeah, me too.
Not one thought,
Yeah.
not one. It's like, I notice it all. I see it all. I witness it all. And I'm like, all right, okay, I got to deal with that. Oh, I got to deal with that. Like, you just become so attuned.
Yeah.
And when something's just slightly off kilter, you can't get away with it. You have to deal with it. Yeah.
I've had this thing recently. Throughout my life, I love being like, I love performing, honestly.
Yeah.
It's one of my favorite things. And one of the things I've grown up doing is doing impressions of people.
Oh, nice.
Well, what I recently learned was I can't do an impression of somebody if it's like a negative or angry impression.
Yeah.
Because for the next like 10, 15 minutes, just because I'm so aware of it, it'll only be that long.
Yeah.
But in the past, it might have gone on for days or a week or so. But I carry that vibration, that thought pattern. It starts to bleed into my life and how I think and my perception.
Yeah.
And I was like, I said this the other day. I was like, oh, I can't even do that anymore. I can't do that negative, like angry impression because all of a sudden, like I'm having those thoughts.
It's like you run the sound current through your body, and then you have to deal with like the hangover of it.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, not a good vibration.
Yeah.
I get that. But I feel like it just starts extending even to one thought that comes in, and you can tell like, oh, that one, that's not a very attuned experience.
Yeah,
and
that's an old ebb thing. That we've worked really hard to free ourselves from.
Yeah.
I don't want that shit creeping back into my life.
Well, and this is the thing I think people don't understand when they first start things like breath work or yoga. I think it's hard to wrap your brain around that like these tools actually do work when these thought forms come in. You no longer have to be a victim to these experiences.
Yeah.
You can activate into one of your tools. And I feel like breath work is a perfect example. Like if I get into a space where I just can tell my thought forms are just not really highly attuned, I'll sit down and do breath of fire. And I mean, in 3 minutes,
just cleared it out.
It clears it out. And those thought forms are no longer there. And I think what you're saying is so important because people do, like when you get more sensitive, you also have to be more responsible.
1000%.
And so it's like you have to have these tools that you can activate into. And it's like, I mean, if I don't have 3 whole minutes, I have 1 minute, and I can guarantee 1 minute of breath of fire is going to change the way the thought forms are occurring for me.
1000%. It's you're saying a lot of things that have been circling in my sphere.
Your aura.
Yeah,
it's in your aura.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I teach Bikram.
Nice.
And been having these discussions with students because we're in the midst of a 30-day challenge. And was talking to one student, and he came out and he's like, man, this is no joke. And I was like, yeah, it's no joke. And it occurred to me through our conversation that I suppose because of how things like yoga or breath work or meditation are packaged in the West, like we have this preconceived notion that in an organized class or an experience with other people. It's sort of this casual thing,
Right.
you know?
Yeah.
Like, oh,
Like
we're going to do
get a juice.
Yeah.
And go to yoga.
Yeah. I'm going to go and have fun and do this exercise. And, oh, it's kind of cool and interesting. And we don't necessarily account for the fact that these tools fucking change you.
Yeah. It's like you think it's entertainment.
Yeah.
And really it's spiritual
It's
development.
work. Yeah. It's actual work that's going to transform you from the inside out.
Yeah.
And you experience a whole lifetime journey of the emotional spectrum in a 90-minute Bikram class.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, where you do breath work and you're literally opening your heart, you're clearing your mind, you're doing all of this really deep work that's actually changing you. And if you're not conscious of that, it can be really fucking disconcerting because you come out of there and you're just like totally wiped out.
Yeah.
Exhausted mentally, emotionally, physically. You feel as though you're a fish out of water because all of a sudden your old paradigms, your old ways of being feel uncomfortable or gross or just not in alignment. And you're going, wait, what the fuck? What happened?
All
what did I
was
do?
one yoga class.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's absolutely right. These are transformative practices that change who you are. They change your relationship to yourself and the outside world. They change how you function as a human being.
Yeah. I really want to dive into something with you because I feel like we'll share something in common here.
Yeah.
You do Bikram Yoga and I do Kundalini Yoga, and something we have in common is that the founders were under quite a round of fire in the recent years. And I'm curious, like, your thoughts on that. Because I think it's actually a really cool conversation to have. Because, you know, one of the things I see is that there can be a really powerful spiritual practice. And then something like the documentary about Bikram Yoga comes out, and then people wipe it from planet Earth. They wipe it from a possibility. And it's such a powerful modality that it's like you're throwing the baby out with the bathwater. Yeah. And the similar thing has happened for Kundalini Yoga with Yogi Bhajan. And I just think it's really cool to have these experiences and these conversations because there's a lot of mastery and a lot of wisdom in these teachings. Yes. And like, you know, don't necessarily like, I don't know. I guess it's like, don't kill the messenger kind of thing, you know, like, so I'm curious, like your thoughts, or if people ever ask you about that. And
people don't really, however, you're exactly right. And I know exactly what you're talking about. And I mean, I watched the documentary on Bikram, and all of that being said, he brought a powerfully therapeutic practice to the West. Yeah. He learned from Vishnu Ghosh, who is the brother of Paramahansa Yogananda. And Vishnu Ghosh started the College of Physical Culture, or Yoga College of Physical Culture in India. Okay. And he essentially would work with bodybuilders and people who had experienced traumatic back injuries, knee injuries, catastrophic, like couldn't function. And he'd put people back together. And his practice was 72 postures. That's the full Vishnu Ghosh series is 72 postures. And Bikram, who is one of his students, he whittled it down to these 26 postures and 2 breathing exercises, which we call the beginner's class. And he said, I want to bring this to America and help heal back injuries and knee injuries. And to me, there's no better physical practice for realigning your skeleton, healing bad joints, healing bad backs, changing your physical body from the inside out. And then throw into it, I was asking the woman who I did my yoga teacher training with, who was one of Bikram's OGs from back in the day. And she said, I asked her, Was it a conscious part of putting this practice together that the heat would create such an emotional experience for people? And she said, I think it may have happened on accident, honestly, because all Bikram would ever talk about was it's super hot in India.
Yeah.
And we're going to recreate that by putting you in a hot room that's 105 degrees with 50% humidity. And that allows for phasic changes in the tendons and ligaments and the bone structure. So you can actually, it literally melts, like when you're in a sauna, those heat shock proteins, similar thing. You know, you're literally melting down the cells.
Right.
So
and all that myofascial release.
Exactly. Yeah. So you can change the structure of the body to heal damage, trauma, scar tissue, all that good stuff. You know, the other thing that's happening, you walk into that room, immediately you're going into fight or flight. You start producing stress hormones, adrenaline and cortisol and all this different stuff. Your amygdala starts firing. You go into that fight or flight system. And then the first thing you do is you get into pranayama and you start doing breathing exercises that tone your vagus nerve, which start to pull you out of the amygdala and back into the prefrontal cortex. So you're getting out of the fight or flight and into the parasympathetic state so you can rest, digest, recover, detoxify. So it's super detoxifying. And this is real shit. I mean, this is what the practice does to you. So not only are you getting all of these physical benefits, this truly therapeutic sequence of practice of movements and postures, but you're also cultivating resilience and space in your nervous system to be able to withstand more adversity, more challenge, more discomfort when you go out into the real world. And how many times a day are we confronted by a person, a thing, a situation, our boss, a work thing, a family thing that triggers us to our core of those childhood wounds that make us feel not worthy or not good enough or it's too much or puts us into this state of fear. Imagine having something that you can do that puts you into that place where you get to literally just sit with it and be with it and unravel your trauma from the inside out, from the seedling, and change yourself.
Yeah.
You know, and whatever you want to say, whatever we want to say about Bikram, I mean, yeah, the guy did some things that are fucking not great, you know?
Yeah.
He hurt people. He did things that were, he really took advantage of his position as a guru.
Yeah.
You know? And that aside, I mean, he's paying the price for that. God knows where he is. I think he just fled back to India and is living like in a, you know, out of sight, out of mind.
Yep.
That being said, the practice that he brought to America is, to me, it's changed my life. It's gotten me, I lived in chronic pain for 30 years, you know?
Yeah.
And
I think it's just really important to remind people of this, though, because I think we live in this cancel culture, right?
Yeah.
So you see one documentary and then you take that modality off the table.
Right.
Or you see a negative comment about something else and that takes another modality off the table. And so I just think it's really beautiful to hear about these technologies, these bodies of wisdom, and just how powerful they are. And like, you know, go find out for yourself, like actually go have an experience. And I feel like Kundalini Yoga is so similar to everything you described. And that's why these are ancient technologies that have been practiced for thousands of years. And, you know, we don't even still understand all of the things that they're doing in our physicality and our emotional bodies. But, you know, if we keep just taking these things off the table, we lose an opportunity to potentially have a life-changing experience like you did.
1,000%. Yeah, it's really, it's very true. And I guess it's a result of this weird cancel culture thing.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know if there's anything more, any explanation that's more, I don't even know what to say really. Like if it's anything deeper than that, just this thing of just like, let's cancel people and cancel entire genres.
Systems.
Yeah. Systems.
Thousands of years old systems.
Exactly.
It's crazy. And I think it's actually something that I like to bring it up because I feel like, it's part of my dharma to be like, hey, let's remember to like take every situation as it comes and not just have these huge swaths of decisions, like cancel that whole genre of experience. Like, oh my gosh, look at all the beauty and the wisdom you would lose if you do that. And I think it's kind of an interesting little plague on our society, this cancel culture mentality.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's a virus for sure.
It really is. Yeah. And I just feel like, I don't know, can't we just be more compassionate? Like remember to be compassionate towards one another. I remember thinking, like, when I was young, people could have an opposing opinion or view, and you would just be like, I literally remember thinking that most people would say, well, yeah, I don't agree with that, but I still like Bob for who Bob is. And Bob's a great guy. And I still want to hang out with him. And I still want our families to go on vacation. Now it's like, Bob has an opinion you don't like. Death.
Fuck Bob.
Fuck Bob. Bob is dead. His lineage is dead. Like everybody. And I'm like, what happened, people?
Yeah. Well, it becomes this thing. That I see more and more of. Well, I shouldn't say that. It has become more and more clear to me that when a person does not live their life with a spiritual program, they make materialism their God.
Yes.
And when you make materialism your God, it's a very dead-end pathway.
It's a false God.
It's a false God.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's really, I believe that the cancel culture thing is all making materialism your God, because it's just about what's in front of us. Mm-hmm. What's good, what's bad, what's wrong, what's right. Outside of that, it doesn't exist. I don't give a fuck what a person did. It's there's that, it's pretty hilarious, but it's a joke that we would tell in the football locker room a lot, or occasionally whenever jokes were being told. But the guy the story of the bridge builder.
I don't know it.
Well, he's basically like, I built 1,000 bridges, but you fuck one goat, and then you become the goat fucker.
Exactly.
And it's just like,
yeah.
When there's nothing but the materialist paradigm, when your God is just in the things that are tangible, then it's really difficult to see the bigger picture.
Yeah.
It's really difficult to have faith, to have hope, to live in a life that's full of love, because at the end of the day, I mean, we're making decisions based on fear or based on love, at the core, at the center of it.
Yeah.
Like, those are the two pathways we get to go down, we get to choose from. If you're waking up every day going, my life is fucked unless X, Y, and Z happen, and I can't do this because of that, and I need to do that because of this, and et cetera, like, your life, you're going to take yourself down this road where it's going to get more and more difficult to see the light.
Yeah, it's interesting. I was thinking about, as you were talking, that Jim Carrey interview, and he talks about how he wishes that everybody could have a certain amount of wealth, or like have that attainment, so that they could actually experience that wealth is not it.
Right.
It's like, I think, like you said, you make it your God and you make it this destination. But then, like, everyone who has ever become wealthy or had that level of attainment, you get there and you're like, oh, actually, this is not it.
Yeah.
It's actually, what are the quality of my moments? What are the quality of my thought forms? How am I in this, like, very life existence? How am I creating it? What am I contributing? And it's like, there's so many people who just think that money is the answer.
Yeah.
And just getting to some, net worth is going to be the thing that makes them fully embodied and alive. But at the end of the day, it's like, if you don't have the quality of this moment right now, there's no dollar amount that's ever going to do that for you.
Yeah.
You could have $5 and be the wealthiest person in the world, because you understand the quality of this moment and creating it in the most beautiful way you can. But it's
1000%.
it's just, I think it's like one of those things that we just forget about in society a lot. It's like more, more, more wealth, more money, more things.
Yeah, more things.
More
That'll
things.
solve it.
Yep.
That'll make me happy.
I'm sad. Let me open my Amazon account.
We hit the Prime.
Yeah.
Or the Prime deals.
It'll be here in LA. You could get it the same day even.
Yeah, exactly. No, it's really an interesting thing. And, Kundalini is just like an incredibly powerful practice that has transformed, changed people's lives. Do you know Dr. Harhari Khalsa?
I don't know him, no.
Do you know who he is?
I know who you're talking about, but I haven't met him.
Okay. He's got an amazing place that was Yogi Bhajan's old office.
Oh, cool.
It's called the Transformation Healing Universe.
Nice.
And he's a chiropractor by trade, but he was one of Yogi Bhajan's
original
OG guys.
Yeah.
I've done a podcast with him. It was one of my favorite conversations of all time. But he's got all these cool toys. He's got Tesla coils and PMF machines, and he's got this thing called a Pandora Star in this Ormus fluid chamber.
Oh, wow.
Which
That's
is
amazing.
a pretty trippy experience.
Well, I feel like Kundalini yogis, like, they understand that frequency is the thing, right? And so when you see these other technologies that are dealing in that vein, it's not a hard leap to make. You're like, okay, I'm in.
Yeah. No, it's, like you said, it's technology.
It is technology.
These are technologies that people want to say, I don't even know what essentially, because, when I talk to guys about doing yoga, they're like, oh, that's a chick thing, man. I'm not flexible enough. I'm like, okay, come into this shit.
Yeah.
Come and take one class, and we'll see how you feel about it afterwards. Because I guarantee you're going to be obliterated. Not to mention, yoga is one of these things that was created for men.
Yeah, that's what I was just going to say.
It was created for men. I mean, only in the West did it become this thing that women were just, and, maybe like a lot of things, though, women are kind of better at it than men are. And their bodies are just like, women have a better sense of the practice, maybe even just because that's how it is in the West, and men are just like, hit the weights, grind it out. That's our mentality.
Right.
But yoga was really formulated for men.
Yeah.
Or by men.
Well, and it's so interesting because if you think about just even the way that we operate as humans, it's all in the same path, right? It's like front, side, and there's nothing else, right? You're either like this way or that way. Yeah. And yoga actually asks you to move into these directions of yourself and your space that you're just unfamiliar with.
Yes.
And I think for men, that's just a little scarier. Women are ready to do that because I think, just have to do that. We have to be more prepared for that.
It's true.
And men are like, no, I'm going to stay straight or side to side. Those are my two directions. But then, like you said, when men do it, they have some of the most beautiful transformations and so much attainment available to them because it's so beautiful when they start to actually own the full 360 degrees of their experience.
Absolutely. And a lot of the ancient yogic texts, they talk about the spine as the axis of the universe.
Right. Yeah.
In all the yogic postures, it's all about manipulating your spine into different positions. You're activating various hormone production. You're stimulating all the gray matter in your gut.
Well, just think about the cerebral spinal fluid,
right?
This like magical elixir that's like lubricating and, adjusting the glandular system. And it's just like,
they talk about
magic.
That. Yeah, exactly.
And that's the thing that I think people think of yoga as like, oh, I want to get more flexible. But for Kundalini yogis, it's about your glandular system. So it's more like, I want to actually regulate the glandular system so that, like we were talking about before, so that I have more powerful thought forms. So that like the elixir that I'm living in is more vibrant, more beautiful, more attuned. And that helps me hold the attainment that I'm creating through this practice.
Yeah. Yeah, 1,000%. That's really what sets yoga apart from any other physical practice.
Yeah. And people think so much that it's about like just getting more flexible.
Yeah.
And you're like, that's a beautiful
That's
byproduct.
great.
Yeah.
Great.
Don't get me wrong. It's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
But it's really like, what you're doing from like, a liquefaction aspect of your
1,000%.
body is like
Yeah.
the most powerful. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, totally. Just it's optimizing how your body functions on every level.
Yeah.
you know?
I was like, should we stop and do some yoga?
Yeah.
We're just like over here.
We're going to have to do that
crushing
next
so
time.
hard.
I know.
I love it.
Yeah. No, this is so good. How long have we been going, Noah? Oh, really? Oh, my God. I really wanted to talk to you about reading the Akasha.
Let's do it.
Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you listened to another pod I did
Yes.
with a woman who reads the Akashic Records.
Yes.
And it's something I've always been fascinated by.
It's really beautiful technology. Again, back to that T word.
So for people who don't really know what it is or understand the concept of it, can you talk to us a little bit about what it actually is?
Yeah, I always give like the technical definition is that it's this space, this level of experience that holds the energy field of your soul's information. And so, some people think of that as a physical location because I think that just helps our mental brain like just, sink into it. I think it helps us to kind of just put it into a category we understand. But honestly, it's just literally the frequency of everything that's happened to your soul, everything that will ever happen to your soul. And it's just a container. And you can almost think of it as like a hard drive of your soul's experience, right? Everything that's ever happened to your soul from its inception point well into it, the future is just ingrained in this hard drive. And it's just the information that is stored there. So I think that's a way we can wrap our brain around it. But I think another way that's helpful to think about it is that, it's also an extension of almost our intuitive power, our intuitive energy.
Okay.
And so, even though this is technically a vault of information about your soul, the way that you experience that sometimes is through your intuition or through having an empathic feeling or feeling emotion or, even having just like a gut feeling about something or a sense about something. And that's how you will actually kind of interface with the Akashic Records is through these systems that you're already somewhat familiar with. Close the gap because for people, they feel like the Akashic Records, it's out there. I don't know how to get to it. You're probably already interfacing with it in certain ways. But, obviously there's ways that you can train and really tune into that line of communication and pull more frequency into it. But it's really like a lot of people are already doing it in some ways.
What are some of the, we've probably been talking about them, some of the practices, tools by which we can clear the channel of being more available to that information?
I actually talk a lot about Kundalini Yoga when I do an Akashic training. So I teach Kundalini Yoga kind of part and parcel with Akashic training. And the reason I do that is because exactly what you asked. It helps clear the channel, but it also helps you to hold the capacity. Because when you start working in the Akashic Records and some of these energy fields, it's a lot of energy. And so the Kundalini Yoga actually kind of helps attune the system so that as these frequencies start coming in, you can hang with it. You're prepared for it. You get it. You can interface with it without being sort of overwhelmed or like, or just fatigued by it even. So I think that, Kundalini Yoga is one of the most powerful. I also do cold water therapy every morning. So
we were talking about that.
Yeah. Cold
So
shower
powerful.
every morning. Yeah. In Jackson Hole, Wyoming, which is like,
What do you guys do? Do you just go jump in a hole in the lake, or you have an ice tub?
So we do have an ice tub, but honestly, I just hop in the shower. So
it's just so cold.
It's so cold.
I love that.
If it was any colder, it wouldn't be coming out of the pipe.
Right.
So I would guess it's 34 degrees, 35 degrees maybe, but it's freezing.
You just go for a few minutes.
Yeah. So I just do 2 to 3 minutes. And
Amazing.
just first thing in the morning. So that's probably my biggest devotional practice. Obviously, I do my Kundalini set every morning as well, but the cold shower has changed my life. And I believe that the cold shower, the cold water therapy, the Kundalini Yoga, all of those things prepared me to be a teacher of the Akashic Records. And it wasn't until I was really serious about all those practices that I was given my own prayer, which is the way that you open the Akashic Records. And they basically, the Akashic Records, the beings that kind of monitor that space, said it's time to teach it. And I really think it's just because of the devotion I had to these other lineages, so to speak, that prepared me to hold all of that.
Yes. Yes. No, it totally makes sense to me. It totally makes sense to me. And I mean, it's all just works synergistically, right?
Yeah.
Like to opening you up to you being in alignment with what you are here to do.
It's just levels, right?
Yeah.
Like just levels of awareness and levels of capacity. And I think, you know, I learned about the Akashic Records back in like 2008, 2007. And I wasn't given my own prayer until like 2020. And I really think it was because in those years, I really shored up my Kundalini practice. I really got devotional. And that was when it was like, all right, now you're ready. And it's not, I don't want to, you know, make it sound like, oh, the Akashic Records, you're not going to be able to handle it. Like, of course, everyone can go in. And the beautiful thing about the Akashic Records is you actually get a bit of a healing when you're in there. But if you want to start teaching it, you want to start holding people, you know, in this line of technology and helping people discover it and witness them and support them, it's just going to take a little bit more energy. And so I think that's where the Kundalini Yoga, you know, it's just like a basic tool for life, you know, it's just going to support you foundationally for whatever you're creating. But particularly when you're starting to access these higher realms, it's like a nice little hug. It's like, I got you. Let's do this.
Yes. Yeah, totally makes sense. Would you, something I've been interested in and for the first time in my life, really just beginning to discern where the information that comes into my being, where does that come from?
Oh my gosh, you know? I love this question.
And you know, it's been interesting for me because I've had mentors who they've personified some of the information that they've received as a specific guardian angel, as spirit guides, as particular beings, even like a particular archangel or someone like that. And for me, I've noticed that, and it's taken a lot of years on the mic of doing podcasts and writing and talking, and in my mind, I use we a lot, and I also use you a lot. And a lot of the things that I always rehear myself saying are you, and it's always because I'm talking to me, you know?
Yeah.
And I'm like, where is that voice coming from? Who's that that's saying you? And then who is it that's saying we? Yeah. And I was sitting down to write, and I was just like, just not even, without even thinking about it, I was just saying we do this, we do that. When we experience this, we have this. And I thought to myself, who's that we? And I've definitely come to recognize there is this, perhaps, a council of guides. And I've had psychics and various readings go, Eb, you have an army of ancestors, souls, spirits, angels that have been guiding you and protecting you throughout your life. And I feel that big time.
Beautiful.
But I'm really starting to discern and thinking about the Akashic Records as being this container of information, this library of information almost that we have access to on this soul level. So I'm curious to hear your thoughts on discerning where the information's coming from, and how do we do that? Is that a lifetime process of tuning in, listening closer, making ourselves more available to get just more clear on where the information is coming from? And it all feels, you know, when those higher higher transmissions come through, it always feels true on the same level, right in here, in the heart. You know, it's like, I know it's just something that's true in my body. Like, it's beyond some intellectual sense of truth. It's this heart-centered knowing of what's true in my experience of life. So I'm curious to hear your thoughts on discerning, or what's the difference between, because I bet to some degree everyone on the planet has access to this, whether they know it or not, whether they're available to it or not, and get the Akashic download one day driving down the 405, just sitting in their car by themselves, and they go, whoa, like, that's an interesting idea, or where'd that thought come from? So just like deciphering, discerning, where is this information coming from? Does it even matter too? Does it matter?
I mean, it doesn't matter.
Right.
It really doesn't. And
and
that's the place I always go with it. Is it helpful for you to believe in the Akashic Records? Is it helpful for you to identify with that as a wisdom body? Is it helpful for you to have a council of helpers and light beings and guardian angels? Is it helpful for you? And I think that this is one of the most important things, is that you get to decide, you get to invent this whole thing for yourself. So if it makes more sense, if it makes more sense for you to feel like consciousness is an emergent property of me just witnessing myself, and that's all that's here, then beautiful.
I love that.
Hold that and let that be your guiding light. But if it helps you to learn about the Akashic Records and open them up, and then suddenly you're realizing that maybe there's these other extraterrestrial species that are out there and that want to communicate, and you start tuning into that, and that's beautiful and that's invigorating for you in your soul experience, then go with it. But I feel like this is just the most important thing, is that you're a sovereign being. We are sovereign beings. So you get to decide.
Yeah.
And if it's beautiful and helpful, then go into it. And if it's not, then make it meaningful and beautiful for you in whatever way, shape, or form works for you and where you're at this particular moment of your life.
I love that answer.
But I do think I have a council of beings as well. So I feel you.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong.
And you can tap into this body of information.
Yes. Yeah. And I feel like, everybody has their different way that they want to interface with this stuff.
Yeah.
And, you might be living in Minnesota or somewhere where people are a little bit more traditional in the way that they think about God and spirit. And maybe it's not helpful for you to be like, I'm opening the Akashic Records, because nobody can relate to that, and nobody around you is going to be
what?
Yeah, they're just like, oh, Jimmy's lost the plot. Like, so I just think it's so important that people just realize, like, find it in a way that works for you. And yes, if you want to extend the edges and expand your compass a bit and find people that want to go there with you, then great. But like, it's all God. And I've had so many people come into the Akashic training that were worried, oh no, I'm doing something wrong because I was raised Catholic or I was raised Christian. And like, this is like going into a sect that is, uncharted territory, or a place that I've been told is not good. And inevitably, every woman that has gone through the training that's had that experience realized that it actually brought them closer to God. And that's because it's all God. It's all spirit, and it's all one. And so these are just different bird walks that we're taking to experience ourself in that universal energy.
Yeah, I love that. I love that explanation. That rings true for me big time. I love that. It's all God, and it's just about what makes sense for you.
And what's like interesting for you, because honestly, the longer you go in this process, you realize that one of the main goals is that I want to actually be interested in what I'm thinking. Like, I actually want to find what I'm thinking about to be interesting or enlightening or just, entertaining at minimum. And I think that that's the thing about all of this stuff, is like, is it beautiful for you to be holding these thoughts and thinking about these things and going into these spaces? And if so, then like give yourself the gift of that. Kind of like coming back to the whole point of BeFest and everything that we're doing. It's like, give yourself the gift of joy and being happy and being in love with who you are and what you're thinking.
That's it right there. That's it. I don't think there's anything more important than being in love with who you are.
It's it.
How much fucking time do we spend being like, why am I like this? I should be like that. I want to be like that instead. You know, it's like, fuck, what a waste of time.
It's just, it's silly.
Yeah.
It's actually silly. And I remember having this plant medicine journey where I came to this conclusion, and I was able to look back on the timeline of my life and recognize how many thoughts I had spent on ridiculing myself.
Oh my God, yeah.
And I was like, oh my God, honey, like,
yeah.
why did you do that?
Uh-huh.
You know, and you just think, I spent so much precious energy, you know, belittling myself or putting myself down. And it's like, oh, that is not the grace of this lifetime. The grace of this lifetime is to be in love with your thoughts, your tenderness, your compassion, your humanity, just all the things that you are. And that's what we're here to do.
Boom. I think that's it, Vanessa. Thank you. Thank you for that. That's so perfectly said. And it's really where I'm at in my life now. Just like,
congratulations.
yeah, thank you. What a journey it's been to get there.
Oh,
A lot of fucking
lifetimes.
yeah. Grinding it out, beating myself up, doing that just to come to a place where I'm like, you know what? I love myself. I accept myself. I support myself. I approve of myself. You know?
And when you do that, you give permission to everyone else to do that for themselves as well.
Yeah.
And that's why you're such a powerful leader and brother and friend and dad and all of the things, because we need people on planet Earth holding these levels of attainment of self-love, and that just emanates out. And so thank you and congratulations.
Man. Thank you, Vanessa. Thank you so much. I'm really glad we got to do this.
Me too. I'm so glad we did it in person.
Me too.
Way better.
Yeah,
Yes.
so much better. I'm so glad that you just happened to have a yoga training the same weekend.
Of course I did, right?
It's perfect. It's perfect.
This is my favorite thing. I'm like, because God loves me.
Yeah.
And you.
Yeah.
And you know, I always joke, I'm his favorite, and then I go, but you could be his favorite too.
Yeah, exactly. I love that. That's the power of God right there.
Yeah.
We're all his favorite.
We all get to be his favorite.
Yeah.
Her favorite, his favorite, whatever.
Yeah. Well, just to close it out, why don't you let everybody know where they can tune into you, where they can tap into BeFest and all the good stuff.
Okay. So you can tap into BeFest through our main hub, bethewellness.com. And I think by now we all know it's BEE like a honeybee. Bethewellness.com. You can see all of our trips, and particularly BeFest, which Eben will be facilitating at. So super excited. And also, if you want to get in touch with me about the Akashic training, about Kundalini Yoga, about any of that good stuff, you can reach out to starseed-collective.com, or you can just hit me up on Instagram, starseed.collective. And that's probably the easiest way for me to shepherd you to wherever you'd like to go.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I'll have all that in the show notes too, so people can just click right in.
Thanks.
Amazing.
Evan.
Thank you, Vanessa.
Satnam. God bless you.
God bless you. I appreciate you.
I appreciate you. So excited Jared brought us together. Thanks, Jared.
Thank you, Jared.
We love you.
We love you.
And Cal and Peyton.
Oh, Cal and
all
Peyton, the
beautiful
best.
people.
Yeah,
Yes.
so good. Super blessed. Great
So
people.
blessed. Yeah.
Amazing human beings. Feels like a really powerful tribe to be
It really is. Yeah.
moving through life with.
Yeah. And I mean, that's it, right? It's
Uh-huh.
like that's what we're up to. It's the company within ourselves and the company we hold. Those are the greatest gifts that we have.
I love that. I love that. All right, y'all. Love you guys. Have an excellent rest of your day. Thanks for tuning in. As always, we'll see y'all next time. Peace. What's up, guys? I want to take a second to recognize and talk about one of our sponsors for the Eben Flow podcast, New Fit. This is the newbie technology. It's a state-of-the-art electrical current that taps into your nervous system to quicken healing times, help build muscle, build strength, optimize the total functioning of your overall physical well-being. One of the founders, Garrett, or the founder of the technology, Garrett, lives in Austin, Texas. I had the chance to meet Garrett and try out the New Fit technology at a wellness event that I was speaking and teaching at. It's profound stuff. It will elevate your workouts. It'll help you recover quicker from injuries. It'll help your body and your mind function better. It's a fantastic technology. Check it out at new.fit /Eben Flow. Use code Eben Flow for a discount on your device. Incorporate it into your home gym or your practice if you are a wellness practitioner. It's a big upgrade to anyone who is looking to optimize their well-being. Quick shout out to our sponsor, Quicksilver Scientific. Quicksilver Scientific, one of my favorite brands on the planet, founded by Dr. Chris Shade. It's liposomal nanotechnology, liposomal delivery system, taking ancient adaptogenic herbs and roots, making them highly bioavailable. We're talking about ginseng, ashwagandha, astragalus, schisandra, goji berry, you name it, NAD, all the good stuff. They also supply Quinton, which is the ultimate remineralizer, rehydrating product on the planet since the late 1800s. Can't say enough good things about their products. I love the One, Membrane Mend, NAD+, Platinum, Longevity Elite, Nano Fuel. Nano Fuel is the ultimate mind, focus, cognitive function optimizer. It's fantastic stuff. Love it so much. Thank you to Quicksilver. Head over to quicksilverscientific.com. Use code EbenFlow to get yourself a discount on all of their fantastic products. Enjoy.